The Philadelphia Eagles just put the NFL on notice at OTAs, as several players have really stood out and in turn sent a message to the rest of the league. And that includes Jalen Carter, who Vic Fangio says can get even better this coming season. We got some big news on Jordan Davis that makes it seem like he could finally break out this season. Plus, Jalen Carter also just revealed that rookie defensive tackle Ty Robinson looks like an absolute monster, while several other Eagles really made their mark during OTAs. So in this video, I'm going to break that all down, so let's get started right now. The Philadelphia Eagles just wrapped up OTAs this past week as they held the last of 6 practice sessions yesterday on June 5th. Now, don't worry, the Birds still have one more practice that will be open to the media before summer break, that coming on June 10th in the form of their mandatory minicamp, so we're no doubt going to get quite a bit more news and information coming out of that, but even with that, I think it's safe to say that the Birds have already put the rest of the NFL on notice with what they've done during OTAs, as not only have there obviously been some entertaining and important storylines for us fans, with some intense competitions going on among other things, but several players have really stood out in one way or another, and they've really made a statement during this period of the offseason. So again, in this video, I'm going to break that all down. But first, let's start off with an intriguing roster move that the Birds just made not too long ago. As of course, Philly had an open slot to fill after the Bryce Huff trade and Brandon Graham retirements became official post June 1st, and a few days later, Howie Roseman did just that, as the Birds signed undrafted free agent wide receiver out of Sam Houston State, Ife Adai, and this is a pretty interesting move, as Adai is the guy who the Eagles actually brought in for a tryout during rookie minicamp. He obviously wasn't able to make the roster back then, but now, just over a month later, he gets his opportunity, and honestly, it makes perfect sense because if you look at all the guys that the Eagles brought in during draft season, whether it was actually during the draft or after it as undrafted free agents, the common theme was athleticism. I mean, the Birds were clearly prioritizing that with the guys that they brought in, and Adai is definitely another guy who fits into that category. As not only did he run a 4.35 second 40-yard dash at his pro day, but he would have been top 5 in every single combine drill if he had been invited, while he also had an RAS score of 9.56, which, in case you're unfamiliar, RAS is a grading system from 0 to 10 that gauges a player's athletic ability. So yeah, safe to say, the guy's pretty athletic. Now that said, he is very undersized at just 5'10", 181 pounds, and he wasn't super productive last year in college, putting up just 30 catches for 271 yards, and he also spent 6 full seasons in college and never put up over 742 yards in a season, so he's never put up crazy numbers. So in my opinion, it's going to be nearly impossible for him to make the roster and a long shot for even the practice squad, but still, at the very least, I'd classify him as an intriguing signing and maybe somebody who could make a little bit of noise during training camp, but, we'll have to wait and see. Moving on though, somebody who I definitely think is going to make some real noise during training camp is the rookie defensive tackle out of Nebraska in Ty Robinson. Heck, he's already made plenty of noise for the Birds during OTAs and in rookie minicamp, because sure, we haven't seen much of him, but in the brief clips and looks we've gotten of him, the guy looks like an absolute beast, and somebody who could possibly contribute right away in his rookie season despite being a 4th-round pick. And Eagles superstar defensive tackle Jalen Carter seems to agree with that, as he just said this about Robinson in a recent interview.
Boy, fire. I ain't gonna lie, he moving good. He a big boy. I seen his highlights before he came, knew what they was talking about, and he here and he working. I think he gonna have a big impact this season.
I don't know about you guys, but to just hear Carter say that about Robinson just gets me even more excited about his potential. Don't get me wrong, I've been fired up about Robinson ever since the Birds picked him early in the 4th round, as he's yet another one of the Eagles draft additions that is super athletic, having of course put on a show at the Combine and having an insanely high RAS score of 9.91, which, by the way, that ranks 18th out of 1,812 qualified defensive tackles to enter the draft since 1987. So again, safe to say, the guy is extremely athletic, not to mention that the guy also flashed some insane potential in college, both rushing the passer and stopping the run. You can see it in his tape that he has a very violent and aggressive style to his game, and the effort's always going to be there. So combine that with the physical tools, and that's all the makings of a very good NFL player. Not to mention that Robinson is also going to have the benefit of playing next to a guy like Jalen Carter, who of course commands a lot of attention in double teams, and we've seen how other players like Milton Williams, for example, have really benefited from playing next to Carter within just a couple of years of him being in the league. So no doubt Robinson is going to benefit from that as well, and again, the guy has clearly flashed at OTAs too. So All signs are pointing to Ty Robinson being able to make an impact possibly right away in his rookie season, and I'm just personally super fired up to see what he can do. And I also feel the same way about the other guy who I was just talking about in Jalen Carter, as despite the fact that he's already a bona fide star and clearly one of the best defensive tackles in the entire league, I truly do think that he has a whole nother level that he can reach in his game. And I actually said that back a couple weeks ago when I included Carter in a list of players that I thought could explode for the Eagles in 2025, with my logic being that despite the fact that Carter is obviously already a star, he still has yet to put up huge sack numbers, and I feel like this could be the year that he finally breaks through in that area. But apparently, I'm not the only one who thinks that Carter can take things to the next level this season. Because as I mentioned a couple days ago, Eagles legend Jeremiah Trotter recently went on WIP, where he said in a complimentary way that he's heard Jalen Carter doesn't even know how to play the position yet, so just given more time and experience, he's only gonna get better. And while I did somewhat disagree with how exactly Trot said it, I agreed with the overall point that he was trying to make. And it seems like defensive coordinator Vic Fangio feels the same way.
I agree with the point he's trying to make. I do think Jalen, the good news about Jalen is twofold. One, he played very well for us last year, and two, he can still improve a lot.
At this point, we know that Fangio isn't going to make a claim like that unless he actually believes it, so that just gets me even more excited to see what Carter could do this season and moving forward, because again, the guy is already one of the most disruptive defensive linemen in the entire NFL. He draws so much attention from opposing offenses, and he makes the guys around him better. Yet, in his first 2 years, he's put up just 6 sacks and 4.5 sacks respectively, so if he could find a way to put up, say, 10, 11, 12 sacks in a season, then that would be absolutely insane and a scary sight for opposing offenses. And even if it's not that, it sounds like there's still a lot of room for JC to grow as an overall player. So again, I'm just fired up to see how much Jalen Carter can improve going into this next season, and the NFL better watch out. Speaking of which, another Eagles defender that they're going to have to watch out for is Jordan Davis, as fresh off picking up his 5th-year option, it seems like the 6'6", 336-pound defensive tackle is gearing up to have a true breakout season in 2025. Which, yes, I know, I feel like we've been saying that every offseason for a while now, but this time around, it feels like it's more likely than ever. And don't get me wrong, I think JD was actually really good last year in the role that he was given, just being that run-stuffing nose tackle in the middle of the Eagles' defensive line, while clogging up space so other guys could go and make plays. But that said, it still feels like he just has so much more potential, and there's a whole nother level that he can reach in his game. And I believe that he can get there this year for a couple of reasons, with the first one being that apparently Davis came into this offseason with a newfound love of Peloton, and he's in the best shape of his entire life.
It's just all about going out there, getting a little movement, get a little extra work. Fell in love with Peloton later on half in the season. Just putting in a little sweat equity, the little extra things. And when I did that and I was consistent with it, the trajectory for how I was playing definitely took off. I felt like my face was getting a little fat, and I wanted to look good. But then again, knowing that the team is relying on me, knowing that the team has a lot of trust in me and they expect me to be there.
I think he's in the best shape that he's ever been in, which he kind of got into late in the season last year, and he's carried it over. So I think he's going to do very well for us this year.
It's certainly very encouraging to hear that once again, JD has taken his fitness seriously during the offseason, and now he's in the best shape he's ever been in. But the reasons to think that JD is going to have a breakout season don't stop there. As in addition to being in great physical condition, which by the way is something that we hear every year, we also now have concrete evidence of Davis's development on the field. As like Vic Fangio pointed out just this past week, JD's production, especially as a pass rusher, significantly improved down the stretch of last season and will likely only continue to do so in 2025.
Jordan last year, I would say the last 7 or 8 games, including the playoffs, played very well down the stretch. And I think that's carried over into this offseason, and I anticipate it carrying over into the season.
Davis, how has he evolved as a pass rusher?
He got better towards the those last 7 or 8 games. He really did. And you saw it in practice first. Unlike a lot of people think you don't need practice, you do need practice. And he showed it in practice first, and then it carried over into the games. And so I think he realized that, felt it, felt good, and he's just carried it over all off season.
Not only is that very encouraging to hear, but the numbers only back it up. As Anthony DeBono pointed out that during his first 10 games last year, Davis had a pressure rate of just 4.4%, but in the final 11 games, that number shot up to 9.4%, which is over double what it was in the first half of the game. So safe to say, JD was truly playing the best football of his career down the stretch of last season. And Fangio seems to think that he's turned a corner in terms of pass rushing. Obviously, the numbers support that. And the defensive quarter obviously mentioned there that they saw it in practice last season, and that's continued into this offseason as well. So combine that with the fact that JD is apparently in the best shape of his life. And again, all signs are pointing to Jordan Davis having a breakout season in 2025. And it's crazy. Like, when you look at the Eagles' defensive tackle room, it's just a bunch of young, hungry guys with crazy athleticism and talent and a lot of room left to grow. So obviously, I think there's a lot of reason to be excited about this entire room, including the guys I already mentioned, obviously, along with the one that I haven't in 2023 7th round pick Moro Ojomo, who, in case you don't remember, had the second highest pass rush win rate among defensive tackles last season at 18.2%. Now, this year, he's obviously set to take on a much bigger role with Milton Williams leaving in free agency. Ojomo's obviously another guy who benefits a lot from the presence of Jalen Carter, and to add to the excitement, he's a guy who apparently has gotten a lot of reps with the first team during OTAs. So again, I very much do expect Ojomo to make a huge leap in his game this season. And another guy who I'm also very optimistic about is the other guy who was mentioned in that tweet alongside Ojomo in edge rusher Azeez Ojulari, who, like the defensive tackle, apparently was getting a ton of reps for the Eagles defensive line during OTAs. And Ojulari is someone who I've spoken highly of in the past, just given that his track record suggests that he very much has it in him to be a really good pass rusher. Heck, just last season, he put up 6 sacks for the Giants defense, and he had 8 in his rookie season. Now, obviously, injuries have really held back Ojulari during his career, but if he can just stay healthy, then I could see him having a huge year for the Birds in 2025. And moving on, there's also a guy like edge rusher Jalyx Hunt, who obviously really came on towards the end of last season, that being his rookie year. And he's carried that momentum into OTAs as he's flashed as well. He apparently quote-unquote sacked Jalen Hurts at one point during practice, and he's another guy who I think has the potential to explode for the Birds in 2025. And then there's Nolan Smith, who semi-broke out last year, but I think he has a whole nother level that he can reach moving forward. So overall, my point is that, despite the fact that the Eagles are obviously champions and they have this super talented, star-studded roster, they also have this group of guys that can potentially just get so much better this year and make that leap, a lot of which have already been showing flashes during OTAs. So again, I very much think that the NFL has been put on notice with what the Birds have showed this spring during OTAs. And I didn't even mention somebody like Cooper DeJean, who, despite already being a star, looks ready to take on this whole new role of being, of course, first and foremost the starting nickel cornerback, but also, based on what we've seen during OTAs and how the Eagles have used him, he could be used at a number of different positions, whether that's at outside cornerback or at safety in base sets. And I think that goes to show you just how highly the Eagles think of DeJean and his potential, and there's good reason to think that he could get even better this season now that he's no longer a rookie and he's set to take on this bigger role. Heck, same goes for Quinyon Mitchell, as experience is only going to help these guys get better. So again, I just could not be more fired up about where this Eagles team is as of right now, having just completed OTAs, and again, the NFL better watch out. But that being said, you guys know that I'm going to be continuing to cover all things Philadelphia Eagles throughout this entire offseason, and that includes mandatory minicamp next week. So make sure you guys are subscribed and you turn on notifications. That way you don't miss any coverage on that. Again, you guys are not going to want to miss it. And also, make sure you guys drop a like on this video to show some support, because it really does help me out a ton. See if we can get to at least 500 likes on this video. And also, leave a comment just regarding anything that I talked about in this video. Who are you most excited about coming out of OTAs based on what we've heard? Again, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. And also, if you want to watch another Eagles video talking about more storylines and going over some of the news from OTAs, then you can check this out right here. And now, with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.